We are joined in the studio with Richard Jeferies, the tutor for adult education art courses at the Sheppey Healthy Living Centre, and also the chairman of the Turn a Lot Art Club. Good evening and welcome along to the show, Richard.
Well, thank you, Daniel, and thank you for having me along.
Firstly, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Right, okay, bald, bearded and beautiful. No, I'm an artist. I love art. As a kid, my dad inspired me. He was an oil painter, a very traditional oil painter, and I just sort of followed him through, started painting, when he would paint. There wasn't an opportunity really for me to do art at school. The nearest I came to it was sort of technical drawing, so I plumped into that, and that's how I ended up as a draftsman by trade. That I find complements the art, because obviously the tricks you learn with drafting, perspective, scale, layout, certainly help me when I'm composing a picture. And then conversely, when I'm trying to do a technical drawing that I have to give to somebody on a site or something to actually work to, as an artist I can sort of say, well, I can see whether that is clear and concise and makes its point, or whether it's just a horrible mess. I've been teaching the adult education art courses, must be about 5-6 years now, over at Sheppey Healthy Living Centre for Sheppey Matters. We started our first one when there was it was all about the restoration that had been done to the Battle of Britain lace that they have on exhibition there, and I thoroughly recommend anybody going to see it. It's it must be easily 20-30 feet tall, and it's just a hand-stitched lace commemorating the Battle of Britain. It's got aircraft in it, airmen, buildings and things like that. So what we did is I worked at a workshop around it. We did several weekends, and we had children through to pensioners coming along, and they all contributed to this one sort of whole scheme. What we did is at that time Rolf Harris was on, and he's a great inspiration of mine. He really, the way he paints, and so he seems so free and loose, and yet there's so much detail in there. He was doing a TV program where they did the Mona Lisa. They recreated it as a series of sort of large canvases painted by celebrities, and then when they took them out into a huge layout and set them out, and although they were all done in different styles and different sort of abilities, once you blended it all together, you saw the whole picture when the helicopter sort of flew over the top. So we did a similar thing with the Battle of Britain lace. We didn't cut it up, we just photographed it, cut those up, and then everybody that came along got given a 12-inch square, which represented a little piece of it. And it could be anything, just from a little flower in the corner to sort of a Stuka coming dive-bombing down. So everybody did it, and there was like so many different styles. I mean, of course, when you've got the age range that we had from children, I mean, we had from 8 months to 80. Yep. Everybody came along and contributed. Some were done in collage. There were feathers and glitter stuck on them. Some were just line drawings. Others were sort of traditional painting techniques. But when we blended it all together, we put it all together, and actually had to take over the sports hall and lay it out there, and then you could only view it really from the gallery. And it sort of re-represented the whole picture. And of course, one of the other fun things we did is, because it's only in black and white as a lace, we added colour, and it just came alive. It was wonderful. So that was the first course. From that, there was such an interest in doing further courses that I've been doing them now, 3 courses of 10-week blocks on a Friday night at the Healthy Living Centre. Since then through to now, and we've covered everything. We've done ordinary drawing, we've done charcoal, we've done pastels, acrylics, watercolours. I've even snuck in clay and model making as well, because I have a passion for that. Like sculpture, like yourself, Daniel. I love to sort of get in there with your hands, and the sort of, that's why I like pastels and charcoal as well, because I feel it's like sculpting when you're painting. In a way, you're sort of feeling the subject around. So where was I? Oh yes. So we've worked in sculpture courses, so now it's become a regular feature, and in fact we'll be starting one. I've just finished the first 10-week block of this year, and so the beginning of April we'll be starting a sculpture 3D course for 10 weeks again at Sheppey Healthy Living Centre.
Richard, what inspires you?
Most art. I mean, it's a classic, but I am very eclectic in my artistic. I love anybody. I mean, Aisha, Bosch, Turner, of course, a lot of the old romantic painters. One of my favourites, my absolute favourites, is the Lady of Shalott. I think that's Waterhouse. But then I like sculpture and, three-dimensional art. But then there's art in looking around. There's this, your classic sunsets and cloud forms I find very fascinating. art, I find, is an expression. It's internally a way of making an outward display of your feelings. It's like language. It's picture language. It's like your Egyptians would do picture writing. People sort of that have, I've had them on my course that have had trouble expressing themselves in words. You put them down with a canvas and some paint, and then you see what they're feeling, and they can bring it out. We actually sort of do this as a little exercise when we do abstract art, just as a little bit of fun. We all have a piece of paper and some colours, and then we'll say, right, in a shape and a colour, express how you're feeling right now. I mean, at the moment, say I feel a big orange circle. That's how I feel. I don't know why, but orange and circle, that's how I feel right now. This morning, trying to catch the train, I felt like a purple spiky ball. It was sort of that kind of feeling. So we do this as an abstract exercise, and it's very interesting. Everybody's sort of very wary to start with, and then, oh yeah, wait a minute. And we've had teardrops, we've had clouds, we've had little swirly shapes and things, all sorts of interesting things. So that's how art inspires me. It's because it's that way of, you can express yourself in a way that you might not ordinarily be able to.
How do you engage with your students?
Well, I try and get this across to my students. I try and get them as passionate about making art. I try and dispel the myth. I say, look, if you want to paint a bowl of fruit that looks exactly like a bowl of fruit, to every dewdrop and light reflection, well, take a photograph of it. But if you want to do an artistic impression of the art, then just let yourself flow free. I try to make them not fear the mediums. I mean, some art mediums, like oils, are very complicated to use and very sort of technical in the way you use. So I try and sort of dispel some of those myths. And with oils, one of the favourite ways of doing it is with a palette knife. And I get them, and we've had some fantastic scenes. The classic is just sort of like waves crashing, because you can really get some feeling going with the palette knife. So I expose them to as many forms of medium. They do the classics. They do pastels and acrylics and watercolours. And the last couple of years we started doing egg tempera. Now that's 2,000-year-old painting. That's original pigment with the yolk from an egg, mixing it and then painting with it, and it's a wonderful medium to use. Actually get some really rich results. I can thoroughly recommend it, and sort of dispel those myths that you can use all these things, and then they get into it. Because the classic is, people come along to a course and the first week, oh, I'm not very good at drawing, oh, I can't draw. But they can if they're not worried, if they realise that it's an inner thing, not an outer thing. I mean, my favourite is we had this old boy come along, and he basically came to keep his wife company, and he's a wonderful chap, good sense of humour and everything, but he sat and he worked through all the exercises. He did perspective, he did portraits, but you could tell he wasn't enjoying it. Then we got on towards the end of the class and we were doing oil paints, and he started creating these most wonderful sunsets, and everybody just sort of stopped and come round to look at what he was making and doing there. Next week I come in and I said, how did it get on? And his wife said, he's dragged me around the shops. We've bought paints and palettes and everything. He's found what he wants to do. And there was no stopping him after that. And that's what I try and do. Yeah. I try and expose my students to as much as they can to find their trick, what they can do.
We are joined with Richard Jeferies here at BRFM 95.6 on the Monday Night Community Show, the tutor for adult education art courses at the Sheppey Healthy Living Centre, and also the chairman of the Turner Lot Art Club here at BRFM